Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Woohoo! It is Wednesday and I am excited because today we're talking about live versus evergreen launches. And I just kind of feel like we should maybe take the versus out because I'm a big fan of both these launch styles. And I think the majority of the problem kind of comes into the kind of launch style that you pick because people don't really know what's involved. So today we're going to go through them. I'm going to be transparent about exactly what it takes to run both of these kinds of launches. And then from that, hopefully you can pick the best one for you and use it to move forward in Q1. I've seen lots and lots of Facebook posts recently and Instagram posts from people who are like, I really want passive income because then I can just run an evergreen launch and like I never have to worry about it. I'm just going to sit on a beach and make loads of money. And I thought, maybe we should just talk about that and what that might require. And equally, I've seen lots of people who've been like, oh, I have been burnt already this year. And this really frustrates me because I've spent a ton of money on paid advertising for a live launch and I didn't recoup my costs. So I'm here in my superwoman cape. I really wish I had one of those to make sure that you know what the key differences are between them, how you can best run them, and then you can decide which style is right for where you currently are. Let's dig in. So let's talk about live launches first. Okay, so a live launch is something that a lot of people go, oh, I really don't want to do a live launch. Like it's a lot of work. And it is. There are many, many cons to doing a live launch. Equally, we will get into this. There are many cons to doing an evergreen launch and there are many pros to both. But a live launch is usually defined as something or a period of time, a defined period of time where you are actively selling to your audience live. Not on Facebook Live, but you are there. You are writing or appearing on social media. You are reacting to audience comments and feedback. You are actively launching something, testing as you go, tweaking as you go, and running that launch live. Okay? So that's a live launch in a nutshell. Now, generally, a live launch is going to have around a 4-week launch plan. So if you are well planned and well thought out, you'll have a 4-week launch plan that usually incorporates pre-promotion period, a launch trigger of some kind, so a webinar, a challenge, something like that, a sales period usually of between 7 and 10 days, depending on how long you want your cart to be open. And then finally, you have your debrief and your delivery phase. So when you are actually letting people into your program and debriefing your launch, analyzing how it went, so that you can improve upon that the next time. So I'm a big fan of live launches. I actually really like them. And at the moment, we're going through a live launch of my private membership, the Dotties. So we run a live launch of that every so often and occasionally throughout the year, put it on Evergreen. So if we know there are certain periods of the year where I'm perhaps not going to be working, I'm not necessarily wanting to do a live launch, but we want to accept new members, like in December, then we can put it on Evergreen because we've run live launches for it a few times and we can basically rinse and repeat that process. So why do we like live launches? What's good about them? Well, firstly, when they're planned out, so when they're well thought out, when you've created your content in advance, when you've written your sales emails and done all that kind of thing, a live launch is simply about you connecting with your community and reacting to the feedback that they're giving you. So in that sense, it's great. It's actually not so much stress and worry over, oh my goodness, I've got 100 people going through a funnel and only 2 people have bought. What's happening? I don't know what's wrong. You're actively engaging during a live launch so you can help combat and overcome obstacles when they're happening in real time. And that's really useful. So if you are newer to business, this is great because it gives you 2 opportunities to sell to your audience effectively. And it means you can overcome problems publicly. It means you can help people overcome the reasons why they feel like a course or a program or a service isn't right for them. You can do all of that in real time. You can do it publicly, which means that you can help other people make the right decision too. The other benefit to having a live launch is that it is a defined time period. So you're going to expend a lot of energy But you also know that it's a defined time period, and at the time that that cart closes, you are going to be sat there with your glass of wine, chilling the heck out. And I speak on behalf of everyone who has ever had a launch, however successful it has been. At the end of it, you just want to kind of sit there with a glass of wine and not people for a while, like just in front of Netflix, relaxing. The thing is, with a live launch, we can sometimes make mistakes because a lot of people tend to not plan ahead for live launches. They're like, oh, I need some money. I'm going to go and I'm going to launch this program tomorrow. And the problem with that is that live launches still require an audience to sell to. And you can do that one of two ways. Obviously, you can prep for that by getting lots of paid traffic and increasing your email list and increasing your followers, etc. Or if you plan ahead and you have a pre-existing audience, you can warm up your current audience and make sure that you're putting out congruent content and make sure that you are warming them up with some kind of launch trigger, like a webinar, like a challenge, so that when you actually open the cart, people have been educated around why they need to move forward in a certain way or what kind of transformation they should be looking for, and they'll want to work with you. You've positioned yourself as the authority. When we don't plan ahead for live launches, we end up pretty much alienating our warm audience because they can't figure out how we suddenly jumped from, sharing pictures of our dog on Instagram to suddenly emailing them every day being like, hey, buy this thing that we've never talked about. And that can really impact a live launch, okay? And so planning is really important. It's important for both of them. But if you are going to be running anything live, you've got to do new market research every time. You've got to have a key launch sequence each time. And so sometimes when we don't plan ahead and we are constantly reactive during launch time, i.e., we're writing the sales email on the day it goes out and we're posting on social media without really kind of thinking about how it's connected to the launch. We just know that we want people to buy something. It doesn't give off a polished air. And so people feel desperation in the launch, and then that makes them panic because they're not really sure why you are panicked about something, and it makes them feel like they should be panicked about it. Whereas if you've been warming them up for a week or so, you've been educating them with your content, you have released a launch trigger that's congruent, when you open the cart, it feels normal, it feels natural, it feels good. Okay. Now, the other thing is that during a live launch, you do expend a lot of energy. So even though you know it's going to be a defined time period, we all go through stages with live launches. It's usually just as we open the cart. So week one, we're promoting a launch trigger. So we're doing lots, we're being visible, we're getting out there, we're using our warmest audience. Week two, we are running a launch trigger. And if you've ever run a challenge, you will know that it takes forever. And it's so rewarding, but also you're like, oh my goodness, it's 9 o'clock at night and I don't know how that happened. So you're busy then. And by the time you open the cart, you're kind of like, ugh, I don't care anymore. I'm done. Like, I don't want to people anymore. I just, if the launch fails, like, fine, whatever. Like, I don't want to continue to react. I don't want to have to adapt anything. I just wish it was over. And that's perfectly normal. But because we don't always talk about it, it can feel really scary. And it can feel really overwhelming. And you get into this kind of negative frame of mind where you're like, well, I just don't even care anymore. I can't be bothered. I just want it to be over. And so you perhaps don't adapt or you don't react to common obstacles or objections in your social media copy, in your emails. And so you lose sales. And then you kind of beat yourself up afterwards and think, well, I could have just pushed through. If your launch isn't planned, that's kind of how it's going to end up. Right? You're going to be sat there day after day thinking, what do I do today? And being so reactive that you can't plan ahead and that you never leave your desk. If you plan a well-planned and well-thought-out live launch, actually, because the majority of your content is created and because you are simply reacting to any feedback you're getting, what happens is that you do get more time during the launch to relax. And I would thoroughly encourage you to use that. Go to the gym, go for a walk. My personal thing when I am in launch mode, live launch mode, is to walk by the beach. I find it really relaxing. The sound of the water, I'm like, oh, this is great. I don't take my phone. I just take the dog and we walk along for about an hour. I come home and I feel ready to face the world again. And, if you're introverted, live launching, again, massively, massively encourage you. to get out there and take some time away from live launching, because it is so much about spending time with your community and with your people. And whilst that is rewarding, whilst it is fun, it can also be really draining. Okay, so plan a live launch well, and you will find that all you need to do during the launch is react, communicate, and engage with your audience to help maximize your revenue. If you don't, you'll find that you are busy, overwhelmed, overly reactive, you will have low energy, and you won't have used your warm audience for sales because they won't have been warmed up, and you will make less money. All right, so that is the live launch, the pros, the cons, the true transparency behind the scenes. Evergreen. Evergreen is like, it's like live launching sexy sister. I'm not entirely sure what I just did with my voice there. I'm so sorry. Mortified moment. So Evergreen is live launching sexy sister because we naturally associate Evergreen launching with passive income. Okay, and so Evergreen launching, all that means is that your cart is always open for a specific product or service, and you're running traffic through a funnel consistently to get people to buy. Now, generally, these funnels are automated, but they are built and designed so that they feel like they're live. And a good funnel will tell you, hey, I'm recording this in advance, so that you know that it's automated and that you don't feel like cheated when you figure out the time zone in that place is actually like 2 a.m. and they're not really on the webinar with you. But nevertheless, Evergreen launches can be phenomenal if you want predictable and scalable and repeatable income. Okay, because the great thing about Evergreen launches is that you are using paid traffic generally, because you have to have a high volume of traffic going through the funnel to continue making your money goals. So what that means is that you can look and say, oh, great, I know that if I spend $2 on Facebook ads, I'm going to get X amount of leads into my funnel, and X amount of leads are going to convert, and that's going to make me X amount of money. And that is the theory behind Evergreen launches. The other good thing about Evergreen launches is because you're not necessarily taking part in them, because it's being run through a funnel, because it will be something that has been tested and tweaked to perform at maximum efficiency and convert the most customers. You can actually kind of just forget about it. You can have that funnel, it runs, you go out and you hear a PayPal ding, you're like, oh great, that's awesome. And this is why Evergreen is like the sexy option, because that's what people want, right? When we set up businesses, we don't necessarily set them up to become another 9 to 5. And so this idea of, wow, I can go to the beach and I'm just going to get paid, and I, can go and walk around Tesco and I'm just going to get paid, and I can pick up the kids on the school run and I'm going to get paid, and all these people are going to be buying my stuff. It's a really, really exciting thought. And who doesn't want to live their life like that? Like, really? I mean, if we're honest, I really love engaging with my community. But if somebody said to me, Jess, you could sit at home all day and just watch Netflix and get paid for it and not do anything, I mean, isn't that a great thought? Is anyone else reconsidering their business choices? So an Evergreen, those are the plus sides. It's predictable, it's scalable, it can be repeatable. You don't have to focus on it. You don't have to do any peopling if you don't want to when your funnels are running, because obviously you can put them on set and repeat. However, there are some, not cons, but like in anything, there are downsides to Evergreen, right? One of the major downsides is that you have to test it and tweak it before it starts performing at maximum efficiency. So I remember when I started implementing funnels in my business, and I kind of was naive about this. I felt like, okay, it's day one. I have built a landing page. I'm going to run some Facebook ads to it, and tomorrow I'm going to have 50,000 leads. And so when I didn't, I was quite disappointed. Not going to lie. I mean, I'm a realist, but also there was that little part of me that's like, but people said this was easy, and it's not. So you have to recognize if you want to run Evergreen launches and you want funnels to be successful and sustainable, you are going to have to do a lot of the testing and the tweaking beforehand. And that A, takes a lot of time, and B, can also take a lot of money. Okay, running consistent cold traffic through a funnel that is not yet working is honestly like standing in front of Mark Zuckerberg and just throwing money at him. Like, it really is. It can be quite disheartening when you haven't figured out why your funnel isn't yet converting. And the only way to get it to convert is to consistently push more traffic through it and make one change at a time. So if you're somebody who isn't yet at the stage where they are ready to invest in paid advertising or doesn't have like a huge budget to put in front of it, please don't run an evergreen launch, because honestly, you will just waste your money. It will be so frustrating and heartbreaking. Whereas if you just wait a few months, you know, wait until you're making your solid 5K, 10K months, you can put that money in there. And whilst it is irritating to lose it, it's not going to stop you eating. Okay. So evergreen launches require just as much planning, but the planning tends to come in the beginning phase, not during the funnel being turned on. Okay. So once the funnel is on, once it's at its maximum efficiency, you can pretty much leave it and just check in every couple of weeks or months, however often you want to check in and make sure your stats are still the same, because you can't just leave it forever, right? Because Facebook changes algorithms, advertising platforms change things, suddenly ads aren't as effective, you might want to change images or copy. Suddenly, you know, if you change that kind of thing, then actually the rest of your funnel doesn't convert as well. So you do have to check in on these things periodically and make sure they're still working, make sure they're still working at the right level. The other thing with Evergreen is it is going to require a significant upfront investment. Okay, so building out funnels is not cheap. We pay ClickFunnels a significant amount of money every single month to run various funnels and keep them running. But you can grab a free trial of a ClickFunnels account, and then their basic plan is $97 a month, and their upgraded plan, so that you get like affiliates and Actionetics and all that kind of stuff, is $297 a month. Okay, so that is just for software that you're probably going to want to run these funnels. Now, there are other companies. I don't endorse any other companies outside of ClickFunnels. They are my preferred funnel builder. They are expensive. There is a reason for that. They're one of the simplest and easiest services to use. And for that reason, they have become a real specialist in this niche. You know, they've produced lots and lots of funnels for lots of different types of companies. So you have that initial investment to actually host the funnel itself, the software. Then you obviously have the investment in traffic. And, you know, when you run a funnel, you can be spending anything from $10 a day to $1,000 a day. You know, it really is completely variable depending on how much money you want to make, how efficient the funnel is, what you're converting, you know, how much you want to spend to acquire a customer, how much it costs you to acquire a customer. So there is this upfront investment required in funnel building, in paid advertising, in hiring anybody into your team to help you with elements of that. If you're not the most techie person on the planet, then it can be a good idea to have somebody else building things out for you. And the other thing with an evergreen funnel is that you are inevitably also going to get emails and kind of approaches from people who say, hey, look, I watched your webinar and I thought it was live and it turned out it wasn't. And they genuinely will be upset about this, even if you go to the effort to try and make them feel live and you explain clearly that they're automated. You are going to get some people who just, they feel a little bit cheated by it. And so you are going to get some communications from people who are like, but I thought it was live and I'm kind of upset that it's not. And so you are going to have to handle those situations as well. But in terms of sales, there really isn't any particular difference between the two. You know, it's not that one will make you more money or less money than the other. If we look at some of the big industry greats, you know, we've got people who are launching programs once a year, twice a year, but having, you know, $10 million plus worth of launch in a live launch. And equally, we've got people who are launching on Evergreen. They're launching every single day. They're running consistent webinars, probably 3 to 5 times a day, and they're enrolling new people into courses, into programs every single day of the week, and they are making just as much money. So please don't think that there is, you know, it comes down to if you do live launches, you're going to make more or less money than if you do Evergreen. That's not the case, but it is about playing to your strengths. If you're somebody who currently doesn't have the funds to spend on paid traffic, or you're not great with funnels yet, or you haven't run programs live and kind of figured out the ways that people get stumped on your programs or the ways that people fall through your live funnels, then Evergreen is not going to be the best way to start. You know, and equally, if you're somebody who really finds it difficult to write copy or pre-record videos or do things without the engagement, without the adrenaline of talking to your community and engaging and reacting to them, Evergreen might not be the option for you. Okay, so in Q2, Start thinking about the way that you want your business to run next year in terms of sales strategies, or this year in terms of sales strategies, and thinking about whether live or evergreen is the best thing for you. I'll see you in Friday's episode.